Just the Facts is a periodic publication of the MWRA Advisory Board. This installment explores the important role of active watershed management in the MWRA's waterworks system. The water throughout the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority is well known for its high quality and great taste. But high quality, great tasting water doesn't happen by accident. The MWRA's Carroll Water Treatment Plant, as well as its Local Pipeline Assistance Program to improve local water lines within the communities, are key components that ensure this high-quality drinking water. But for MWRA, the water quality truly begins at the source, the Quabbin and Wachusett reservoirs, and the Ware River, which helps replenish the reservoir system. The forests surrounding source waters provide natural filtration, and the first line of defense for source water quality is a robust and comprehensive watershed management plan. Both reservoirs have large watersheds, actively managed by the Department of Conservation and Recreation's Division of Water Supply Protection. The Ware River watershed is sometimes forgotten in the shadow of the two large reservoirs' watersheds, but surrounds a section of the Ware River near Rutland, Hubbardston, and Princeton. But don't let this fool you. At 41 million gallons a day, the Ware River watershed provides 15% of the MWRA's safe yield via an intake at the southwest corner of the watershed. Moreover, in dry years like 2016, the Ware River is especially critical to help replenish the massive Quabbin Reservoir. In fact, water began flowing from the Ware to the Quabbin in early 2017. MWRA has invested heavily in this first line of defense. It has spent over $136 million to purchase additional watershed lands, $88 million in debt service payments to DCR, funds DWSP's budget of over $25 million a year, which includes upwards of $8 million each year in payments in lieu of taxes to the local communities. Beyond being the first line of defense, an adequate watershed protection program is a requirement of the federal court, which ruled in 2000 that such a program must include demonstrated control through land ownership and/or land use restrictions on all human activities within the watershed. This ruling allows the MWRA to remain one of the few large unfiltered, or as we like to say, forest-filtered water systems in the United States. But why is this so important? What would happen if this watershed protection were compromised? If MWRA's watershed protection program is out of compliance, the MWRA could be forced to add filtration, which would cost $500 million to construct, followed by large operational costs. Costs that would be passed on to cities and towns, and ultimately, the ratepayers. Unfortunately, in recent years, a startling new trend has begun to threaten this critical component of the water system. Beginning in 2012, DCR employees noticed a sudden increase in unauthorized trail cutting, particularly in the Ware River watershed forest. Since then, this alarming increase in illegal activity, which had now expanded to building illegal structures like bridges, as well as demolishing existing structures like stone walls, also caught the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection's attention. Each year, Mass DEP conducts formal inspections of the watersheds to ensure compliance with the requirements for avoiding filtration. In 2013, Mass DEP began noting the construction of unauthorized trails in the Ware River watershed, and by 2015, DEP took the unprecedented step of requiring the development and submittal of a compliance enforcement strategy because DWSP risked not meeting its two statutory obligations. First, to provide pure drinking water to the MWRA's water system. Second, to preserve the natural resources of the watershed. Many of the illegal trails were cut through watershed forest into tributary stream zones, wetlands, and other sensitive areas, breaking several state laws and regulations. Since then, DWSP has stepped up enforcement and curtailed much of this illegal activity. But many have since raised the question, why is off-road mountain biking not allowed when other recreational activity is? Let's look at recreational activity in watershed lands by comparing our system to other systems. Remember, there are not many large unfiltered systems in the country, but the ones the MWRA uses for comparisons are New York, Seattle, Portland, Oregon, and San Francisco. Both Seattle and Portland allow no public access at all. New York and San Francisco allow some passive recreation, but far less than MWRA and DCR allow. None of these unfiltered systems allow off-road mountain biking anywhere on their watershed lands. Even some filtered systems, which have that extra layer of water quality protection, prohibit recreational activities on watershed land. For example, the Worcester 10 reservoir system containing a filtration plant allows almost no public access on their watershed lands and is patrolled by a vigilant private security firm. By contrast, DCR allows many forms of recreation throughout its watershed lands. Let us be clear. These lands are paid for by communities and ratepayers as watersheds, not parks. However, given the history of the region and the interest of the public living near these lands, the MWRA and DCR have always considered it a special legacy to allow passive recreation on watershed lands where possible. In fact, DCR's careful balance of protection versus public access was cited as a positive characteristic when it won the National Exemplary Source Water Protection Award in 2010. Now let's look at some of the recreational activities that are allowed in the watersheds. Boat fishing is allowed at the Quabbin Reservoir in restricted zones under highly controlled conditions. This is somewhat unusual for a public water supply, but is similar to New York City's program in their unfiltered reservoir system. In the Ware River watershed alone, there are 80 miles of gravel roads which bikers and pedestrians alike can use. In fact, even horses and snowmobiling are allowed in the Ware River watershed on certain roads with culverts that protect the waters. These areas are all included in that special legacy we spoke of to provide public access to watershed lands, and the public access plans for all 3 watersheds are reviewed every 5 years for allowable changes. But if biking, horses, and snowmobiling are already allowed, what's the harm in allowing them everywhere, or adding new forms of activity like off-road mountain biking? If horses and snowmobiles were allowed right near the drinking water itself, just imagine the contaminants that could enter the water supply. The designated recreational areas were chosen specifically to reduce risk to the water supply itself. Authorizing trails quickly leads to many unauthorized trails. Users like off-road mountain bikers quickly tire of trails and cut their own into more exciting areas. This has been demonstrated in parks and forests throughout New England and across the United States. Unfortunately, the majority of illegal trail cutting and off-road mountain biking takes place in the most sensitive part of the Ware River watershed, closest to the intake, putting the source water at unnecessary risk. These activities compromise the integrity of the forest, causing erosion, which makes it easier for harmful material to enter the source drinking water. These activities have environmental and ecological impacts as well. The Ware River watershed is home to over 20 endangered species, as well as 200 vernal pools critical for breeding activity. Disregarding the restriction on recreational activities puts these precious natural resources at risk. For all of these reasons, DCR allows certain recreational activities but restricts others. Some may call these restrictions heavy-handed, but engaging in unauthorized activities in the watershed is illegal. Plain and simple. Let's take a look at the host of laws these infractions violate. They violate the Surface Water Treatment Rule and the federal court ruling that requires the Watershed Protection Control Program. If DWSP cannot demonstrate sufficient control of the watershed, it risks MWRA's filtration waiver. If you recall, the cost of a filter plant was about $500 million and doesn't include the ongoing operational costs. They violate the Watershed Protection Act, which states that within 400 feet of the reservoirs and 200 feet of tributaries and surface waters, any alteration is prohibited. Alteration includes a variety of activities such as construction, excavation, grading, paving, and dumping. Finally, it violates the Wetlands Protection Act by damaging natural habitats and putting endangered species at greater risk. We end as we began, by noting that MWRA's drinking water is well known for its high quality and great taste. In fact, in 2014, the American Waterworks Association dubbed it the best drinking water in the country in a blind taste test with water experts. It's not a lucky coincidence that MWRA's water quality is so highly rated. It's a combination of great treatment, a well-maintained distribution system, as well as continuous water quality monitoring. But it all begins at the source. The Division of Water Supply Protection and its comprehensive program are the first line of defense in providing the purest source water possible, which is its primary mission. And yet, our watershed is not closed to the public, and in fact offers far more recreational activities than any other unfiltered system does. DCR has taken a balanced approach between protection and public access, and it's working. Moving forward, this watershed protection program continues to be the first critical step in protecting the drinking water for 2.5 million consumers and ensuring that we continue to have the best drinking water in the country. This video has been an installment of Just the Facts, a periodic publication of the MWRA Advisory Board. To check out other editions or view other videos or publications, please visit our website at www.mwraadvisoryboard.com or contact us at any time.